All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this live post-game edition, Believe in Bills, presented by FanDuel. Adam Bonini and Sal Mayorana, who, as you can see, is down in Jacksonville after an epic wildcard playoff win, 27-24. Bills rally. The lead changes back and forth. Classic playoff game between the Bills and Jaguars. We knew this was going to be a good one, but we have a lot of ground to cover here on YouTube live over the next 20 30 minutes or so. We invite you to join with your comments, questions. We'll get to as many of them as we can. But Sal, where do you want to start? It starts with number 17. It usually does. Yeah. It ends with him too, as it did today. I mean, the combination of talent, toughness, and we knew experience was going to factor in at some level today. And boy, I think we saw that too. I mean, so many aspects of this game and that drive and the pass to Cooks and the 4th and inches and then finishing off. I mean, this will add to Josh Allen's lore in a very significant way.
He is superhuman, Adam. There's no way to deny that. He is coming into the game. He's been one of the most successful postseason quarterbacks statistically in NFL history. And yeah, there's no Super Bowl on the resume, but he is a force he's a force of nature. Really anytime he plays, but particularly in the postseason, he's been great. And, it wasn't like he was tearing it up through the air today. I mean, everything was dink and dunk. That was the game plan. It basically, because they couldn't run the ball, the short passes kind of took the place of their running game. Everything was quick. But then when they needed to make plays down the field, he was able to deliver. Brandon Cooks, as you mentioned, came up with one of the biggest plays of the season. I don't know, without that play, Adam, I'm not sure they win the game because they were not biting off chunks of yardage. They needed to bite off a good chunk of yardage to get down there in position. So that was a huge play. But all day long, Allen just makes play after play after play. He got hurt again. This time it looked like it was his knee when he scored the touchdown. It wasn't the foot. I think it was the knee. And I tell you what, I saw him in the locker room. I mean, he goes up to the podium, man. Everything looks great. If there's a limp, there's no limp. He'll just grit through it. But when he got in the locker room, he was clearly favoring the leg. And Sean McDermott even making the reference to, we got to get him as healthy as we can this week. That tells you right there that they know he is damaged. And this has been a very, very difficult end of the season for Allen. He's had a lot of bumps and bruises. And the worrisome thing is they're getting more pronounced, right? I mean, we've gone from foot to this. I don't know if it's a knee for sure, but it looked like it was. This is going to be really, really tough going forward because he is compromised. But hey, it's Sunday night here in Jacksonville, and that doesn't mean shit because they won the game, and he played really well, and it was a great win for the Bills.
And in terms of answering to the kind of the BS national narrative of, Josh Allen, for his legacy, has to win. And I get that. I mean, I get where that's coming from. But there's so much more that goes into it, and with what's happened with this team this year. But I don't think there's any question that the been there, done that aspect of this played in a very significant way. I mean, I liked a lot of what Trevor Lawrence did, but clearly Josh Allen was a superior quarterback on the field today.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I think playoff experience can be overblown at times. Every team in the playoffs is good, Adam. Every team is talented. And in most of these games, either team can win. I mean, it's very, very rare. Even look yesterday, we thought the Rams were going to smoke the Panthers. They were inches away from losing. So these game experience means so much in these games. I think it's a small factor sometimes. And maybe in today's game, it played into it a little bit more. This is a Jacksonville team that has played, I mean, not the whole team, obviously, but as a franchise, this was their third playoff game since Josh Allen entered the league in 2018. So they don't have a lot of playoff experience. They have a lot of football experience, but not playoff experience. And maybe that was part of this today. But I think more than anything, the Bills just were a tougher, grittier team. Jacksonville was good. They gave the Bills all they could handle. But in the end, This is a battle-tested Buffalo team that's gone through a lot of adversity already this season. So they were used to it today when things were not going their way for several points in this game. And they found a way in the end to get it done. And then Jacksonville gets the last chance and they couldn't get it done. So again, playoff experience was part of it, but I'm gonna bank on the Bills just being a gritty, tough team. And that's the reason why they won this game.
I think another aspect of the experience, I mean, what struck me is too, because we've seen issues with this in the past, but when they got the football, what was it, a 66-yard drive to cap it off and take the winning margin or go ahead. Yeah, they needed the big play, right, to Cooks. There's no question about that. But the way they managed it, shortcomings notwithstanding, that was clockwork. Like, they've been through this before. They know how to do it. And, Josh Allen is conducting the orchestra, right? But that looked like an experienced team to me in that moment, I guess is my point.
And that's a good point, because I brought it up with both McDermott and Allen in the post game. You think back to the last two playoff losses, both to Kansas City. Bills had the ball. Josh Allen had the ball in his hands in both of those games in the final minutes with a chance to win and did not deliver. Now, obviously, Tyler Bass missed a field goal in the first game, but Allen did not get the ball in the end zone, and they ended up losing. Then last year, we know what happened. Dalton Kincaid probably should have made that catch, didn't, and the Bills lose. So, I made the reference to, hey, this is the third year in a row that, you had the ball in your hands with a chance to win. What does it feel like to come through and get it done? And, both of them basically said, yeah, it's certainly nice that we were able to do it. And I think that's when you talk about playoff experience, that last drive, Adam, they looked like a team that was in complete control of what was going on. I saw people on Twitter, because I'm looking, all the way through, like, why are they going so slow? No, the pace of that drive was, I think, absolutely perfect. They played that absolutely perfect. They got the big play down the field to Cooks, the 2-minute warning, and that's when the Jaguars had to start using their timeouts. And the Bills moved it down inside the 1 yard line there. I thought one of the biggest plays of the game, Adam, when you think about it, maybe it wouldn't have mattered because they did get the pick right away. But when he didn't get in on what would have been an 11-yard tush push, which may have been a record for longest tush push, when they ruled him down, I thought that was a big break for the Bills, because Jacksonville had to use the last timeout with a minute to go. And we were contemplating in the press box, like, don't take a knee because you would lose yardage. But I was almost thinking, like, maybe take the snap, go forward, but don't get it in on the first play. Get it to like the half-yard line. Then you'd waste, 35 more seconds and leave them less time. They did the right thing. They ended up, smashing it in. I also think Jacksonville kind of let them in too, don't you?
They absolutely let them. It
seemed like
they let them.
I asked Deion Dawkins about it though, and he said no, that was bullshit. They were trying to stop us. But when you watch the play, I mean, from that close in, usually there's more of a struggle to get him in, and there really wasn't. I think the Jaguars did let him get in there because they still had a minute on the clock. They had no timeouts, but a minute's a minute, and I think they let him in. But either way, the Bills operated on that game-winning drive perfectly, and I want to believe that they learned lessons from having failed the past 2 years against Kansas City. The pace was great, and they hit the big play when they needed to. As I said earlier, they needed to bite off a chunk there, because that Dinkin and Duncan was not going to get it done. And the Cooks play ended up being huge. And yeah, it was a great, great drive. They still left a minute. And you know as well as I do that this defense is hard to trust. But they made it very simple with Trey White getting his hand on that ball and Bishop being right there in the right place, right time to put it away.
Yeah. Jessica, 83-35, did not like giving the Jags over 1 minute with a 70-yard field goal kicker. Why didn't they run the QB sneak short, keep the ball at about the half-yard line with no time left? Could have given the Jags only 25 seconds to get a field goal. We just addressed that, but that sentiment is out there. But, I mean, it brings up the next point. And I heard you asking about the cliche complementary football, right? Yeah. I heard that. I think that was you but I mean, the way that game capped off, Not that the defense didn't have issues in this one today, but I mean, that was the essence of that term, I think.
It really was. I mean, you think about the Shaq Thompson interception early in the game. That led to the first points for Buffalo, Matt Prater's field goal. The fourth down stop, talking about complimentary football, Ray Davis fumbles the kick, which was bad. He should have taken a knee and gone out to the 35, takes it out and fumbles. That was a bad play. But Shaq Thompson, again, with a huge play, stopping Lawrence on that fourth down. And McDermott, by the way, the guy everyone wants fired, really good challenge. I mean, they realized, we saw it in the press box, we're like, he did not make it. These referees were brutal today, Adam. There were so many calls today that you just wanted to scream. But it was clear he was short. McDermott challenged it. So complimentary football. They bailed out Ray Davis, and then the offense went right down 92 yards and scored. And then later in the game, it was complimentary football. So that is a cliche, and McDermott loves that cliche. He is Mr. Complimentary football. But there is something to it, and it was clearly on display for the Bills today. It worked well in their favor.
Yeah, it absolutely did. Looks a couple of other comments here. Will Ed Oliver be available next week? We don't have the answer to that
I don't
right now.
think so.
No, I don't. Not available. The window for him has always been the Super Bowl. McDermott, correct me if I'm wrong, did mention the idea that he could return to practice, though, potentially.
Maybe they might open his window because they're actually they're pretty close to 3 weeks now before the Super Bowl. They could do it, and I think they've been thinking all along he can. But Adam, even if he comes back with that injury, it would be a quick turnaround after having biceps. I think it was bicep, right? Wasn't it bicep surgery? I think it was biceps.
Yes, right.
That's a hard injury for a defensive tackle to come back. You've got to be strong. I'm not really counting on Ed Oliver. If they get him back, great, but I don't really buy into the fact that he might play. Now, somebody up here asked about wide receivers, and they do have a problem there. It looked like Tyrell. I saw Tyrell Shavers. I asked him how he was because he came back in the game. He said he was fine. Gabe Davis is not. Gabe Davis had a brace on his knee. That looks like he's done. I don't know how serious it was. We'll find out tomorrow, but he was wearing a brace, could not move it. So it looks like he's done. They were down to 4 healthy receivers today. And then you've got, and I actually saw Bean in the locker room too. And I asked him, is Curtis Samuel? I've totally forgotten about the guy. And he said, he's possible. It's possible they could get him back. So you'd plug him in, or they've got Mecole Hardman, who they can use him. I don't think he's going to help the offense at all, especially now that they've got Cooks to run some of the downfield stuff. But Hardman could help him as a punt returner. So that might be the way they go. If Curtis Samuel can't play, it might be Mecole Hardman next week as the 5th guy.
All right, so we'll see how that develops. Getting back to some of the specifics to this game, how about Tre'Davious White and that story? Yeah. I mean, he's obviously has been through a lot, and it's taken some time, but there's a veteran who's playing his best when it matters most right now.
That was the lead to my observations column today was Trey White, and I kind of took it back to training camp when we saw him on Hard Knocks, right, running the hill at St. John Fisher, and I made the comment in my column that that was all a fun little story back in training camp, and it's nice to see, but I just didn't have any faith that Tre'Davious White was going to be able to come back and play, certainly at the level he's played, this season. I just thought he was going to be a nice backup to have. That would be Max Hairston's job, and that has not played out at all that way. Of course, Hairston getting hurt and missing the first half, so Trey White had to play. And it didn't, if you remember, Adam, it didn't start great for Trey White, right? No. I mean, it was a concern. Early on, everything that happened early on was what we were worried about going into the season with him. But I would say maybe right around the bye, maybe a week or two after, since then, he has been really good. And, having to play the entire game last week and now this week, I mean, he had 3 pass breakups today. One of them was huge. It was a 3rd down play that forced the field goal. And then, of course, the last one here that forced the interception. I don't know where they would be, Adam, without Trey White, because they haven't had Hairston. I mean, he's been hurt. He's been hurt so much. He's kind of been, I'm not going to say useless, but he just hasn't really been able to help them much. And then behind them, you're looking at Dane Jackson. I mean,
Right.
my God, if they have to go to Dane Jackson, that's a big problem. Trey White has bailed them out in a big, big way this year. And I was really glad to see him have such a big impact, in a game like this today.
You had mentioned the receiver position. I want to go back to that for a second. Got to mention Khalil Shakir here, right? 12 catches
Yep.
for 82 yards. I mean, we've seen how valuable he is before, and he was certainly every bit of that in this game today.
Yeah, he made a couple nice plays, couple good, made a couple moves that got some extra yards after catch. 12 for 82. That's not a lot of damage, right? Yardage wise, but some of those plays, like I told you, with Cook being unable to get anything going today, they kind of use that short passing game as their running game. And who better to do that than Shakir? That's what he does. That's what he majors in, is those kind of plays. So, I know people get frustrated. I get frustrated with Joe Brady's passing game. It's just, this dink and dunk all the time. But today it had a purpose. I think there was a solid reason behind it. And as we said a couple times now, when they needed to take it downfield, they were able to do it. Don't forget, Cooks had a 26-yarder in the first half that he dropped. I mean, that was a really nice play, a nice throw. Bills would have scored on that possession. He dropped it. Keon Coleman had a nice downfield play in this game, a 36-yard catch and run. So they did take some shots, which was nice to see. But most of it was short, and Khalil Shakir did the heavy work. What was crazy to me, Adam, is that in a game plan like that, where the hell was Dalton Kincaid until the fourth quarter? I mean, he is a frustrating player to me, because the talent is there. And that when he makes plays, they're usually productive plays. But he was invisible for 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden on the one drive, he makes the 2 catches, 1 for a touchdown. But even with that, 3 catches for 28 yards from a guy who is supposed to be one of your keys to the passing game. They've got to get that shit figured out, Adam. Yeah. They just have to get him more involved than they do. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. Looking forward, he has to be more impactful, given the state of the receiving core, especially, and everything. I mean, he was projected as like the guy by many who was going to, if they were going to get over the top in this game, that he would be the one. As it turns out, that was not the case. Cole Bishop, he probably deserves a mention here too, as a guy who really had taken his lumps, but we've seen his evolution. And obviously Poyer going out in the game today had an impact.
Yeah, that hurt.
When Hancock came in, that hurt. But looking at the safety position, that's a hamstring on Poyer, so that's a factor moving forward. But Bishop's play, I think, is in the positive column.
Yeah, Bishop has played very well, and Poyer. I saw him in the locker room, and it didn't look good. Somebody was standing right there. I think it was Shavers who actually asked him, "Is it hamstring?" He was, yeah, and he did. He had that look on his face, like that it's probably going to knock him out now. He's another guy like Trey White. I mean, did anybody expect that Jordan Poyer was going to come in and be a guy they could count on this year? No, absolutely not. And he has really, really solidified their back end. He helped. I think him being back there, we've talked about this, him going in after Taylor Rapp went out really solidified and calmed down Cole Bishop. And we've seen it in Cole Bishop's play really all season. Now they're going to probably have to go without him. They went with Jordan Hancock today. I'm not quite sure why they didn't go to Cam Lewis. I wasn't, I'm not aware of every single snap out there, but I saw Hancock a lot, and I don't think I saw Cam Lewis much of all. Usually Cam Lewis is the guy, so I'm not quite sure what they were doing there. Maybe it was because the Jaguars do have some speed in their receiving core, and they wanted to go with a guy who is faster than Cam Lewis. But he struggled. Hancock struggled. So Bishop is going to need to be really big. He made a couple. He saved a touchdown. I think it was on EDN. There was a pass on the right side, and I think if he hadn't made the tackle, he was going to score. I think they ended up scoring anyways, but that was a big play at the time. And then, of course, the interception, just being in the right place at the right time. His development has been one of the big bright spots, I think, obviously, this season for the Bills, because, after last year, we were all questioning Cole Bishop and a second-round pick, and did they whiff again? Well, it looks like he didn't whiff on that one.
Now, with that defense and the emphasis that McDermott places on the safety position, they needed him to develop, and he has, to their credit. And bringing in Poyer, where everyone kind of rolled their eyes at that one too. I mean, the impact that he's had on him off the field as well, in terms of teaching him some of the football instincts, or helping him to be in position in that communication or whatever, where we had felt like Bishop lacked football instinct. That's been a big part of his, because his athleticism has always been there, right? Yeah. It's that aspect of the game from the shoulders up that has been more of an issue, and we've seen great strides from him in that area. All right, FanDuel, presenting sponsor for this show. Super Bowl odds, one game changes things. Bills are third now at plus 550, and let's not put the cart before the horse. At the time we record this, we don't know who is next. Patriots and Chargers tonight. Should the Patriots win that game, Bills are going to Denver. Otherwise, they take on the Texans-Steelers winner. So we'll let that, work itself out, Sal. But does today's win, aside from the fact that it's a road win in the postseason and they're 2 wins away now from going to the big show, does what you saw on the field today change anything about your view of this team moving forward in these playoffs?
No, I don't think it changes much of anything. It's a really nice win to get. I mean, like you said, road playoff game. They hadn't done it in the McDermott era, so that was nice. They beat a good team. This is a good Jacksonville team, so this is a very nice start to their postseason. Now, we've said this right along. They're probably going to have to win 3 road games to get to the Super Bowl, and that's asking an awful lot. I mean, it really is. They're going to have to probably play Denver, which is the number 1 seed, coming off a bye week, playing at home at altitude with a great defense. That's going to be a tough game. If it ends up being Denver, that is going to be a really tough game for the Bills to go out there and win. I guarantee you the Bills are not going to be favored to win that game like they were for part of the week against the Jaguars. That changed late in the week, but they're going to be the underdog if they go to Denver. And quite frankly, they might be the underdog if they have to go to Houston, because that's another team that has just given the Bills fits.
Yeah,
I think FanDuel and everybody else is going to recognize that Houston's a bad matchup for the Bills. So this next week is going to be very difficult no matter who it is for the Bills. But today was a good shot of confidence for them to go on the road and beat a good team like this.
And again, to reiterate something that you said off the top, but as we wrap this up, the wear and tear on Allen, how that plays out this week. And, he obviously finished the game in a historic kind of way. But he's going to play. It's just, how comfortable he is at any point, whether it was the concussion or his hand hitting the helmet or whatever, I just hold my breath, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, there's a lot piling up on him. And to his credit, I mean, one of the things about him, it's a Hall of Fame career that he's, working on right now, will be his toughness and his durability. And that was today was an epic example of that.
I'm telling you, I mean, this is where, my job, you get the privilege of being inside that locker room. This is what fans don't see. They see him doing his thing, and he, doesn't even look like he's limping when he's running around out there making these great plays. Adrenaline kicks in. But after the game, man, when you see him at his locker, just looks like he's gotten the hell beat out of him. And then I watch him get up and limp out to wherever he was going. He was limping. There's no doubt about it. He was limping on that leg. So it's going to be something we're going to have to watch. You're right. He's going to play next week. Damn well he's not going to miss the game. But you have to wonder, how serious this injury is and how it's going to impact their game plan. Because they might have to go into this next game knowing that they can't rely on his legs to get it done. Now, maybe on a tush push or something, but you may not see him running around the way he kind of needs to run around to be at his very best. It's going to be a big thing to watch next week.
The way that leg twisted, I'm sure you were in the press box and saw the replays.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cringeworthy, right?
That's why you watch him after. I can't believe he was playing the way he was after that. You couldn't even tell he was hurt, but I'm telling you right now, he was hurt. It's going to be sore tomorrow for sure.
All right, Sal, thanks very much as always. That's going to do it for us here on a post-game edition, Believe in Bills, playoff edition, wildcard weekend 27-24. Buffalo Bills over the Jacksonville Jaguars. They advance on to the divisional round once again. So for Sal Majorana, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I'm Adam Bonini of WGRZ TV and Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Thanks for being with us here on Believe in Bills, presented by FanDuel.